Hi Edmund, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Allora, in un'intervista del 2010 hai dichiarato che i tuoi soggetti preferiti sono i mostri. Dato che anch'io amo il design e le storie dei mostri, ho iniziato a collezionare proprio con i Mostri in My Pocket, che sono dei pupazzetti di gomma della Matchbox. Volevo chiederti che cosa ti affascina dei mostri e come mai le persone sono così tanto affascinate dal concetto dei mostri ancora oggi.
I think I like the kind of outcast aspect of monsters, that they just don't fit in, or they're monsters depending on the perspective of who's saying that they're monsters. I think monstrous things and, even deformities in people are so unique and oftentimes beautiful in abstract ways. And I don't know, I always just found the things that other people don't like pretty interesting. Maybe monsters are just misunderstood. They're interesting.
Infatti vedo sul background che insomma ci sono tantissimi mostri, quindi non è che ti piacciono solamente i mostri animaleschi, ma anche mostri umanoidi, tipo appunto vedo Jason, mi pare, magari i mostri di Ultraman, insomma un po' tutti i design dei mostri.
Sure. So that's the guy from Jason and the Argonauts. Underneath is one of the Salad Fingers guys, and then we've got one of the Jason masks, and then it's just a weird face. I've got a lot of faces all around my house. A bunch of Jasons. They go all the way over. It's all Jason's one of my favorite horror movie monsters. I'm a fan. There's something endearing about him, maybe because he's deformed or special and yet still so strong. And then you got the blue baby over here.
Yeah.
And then this is Hugo, Man of a Thousand Faces. I have a lot of him as well, and he was this really weird 70s toy that I found when I was little at a like a swap meet or a flea market, and I thought he was just so creepy, and I collected a lot of him. There's a lot of him. If I can move this over, there's a ton of him over there.
Whoa.
And he's hiding out over here too.
Bellissimo.
I've got like 30 something of them. They're all over the house.
Ora passerei a tutt'altra domanda, perché tu Edmund hai citato più volte tua nonna come la figura che più ti ha supportato nella tua creatività. Qual è stato il suo contributo più grande nella tua carriera?
Sorry, it's kind of an emotional time right now, but she contributed everything. She's just a really special person to me, and she was always a supporter of everything. She was always there for me. I had a really hard time growing up, and I really kind of felt lost. I didn't feel like anybody. I didn't feel like I fit into my own family. I felt like an outcast. My grandma was the one supporter of whatever I was doing. It didn't matter what it was, and she was just a really special woman, a foundation for me to build off of. And I think she knew that. She knew that I didn't have much of a foundation, and she was very careful about making sure I took care of my mind and used the gifts that I had to the best of my ability. And she was also a very religious woman, Mexican Catholic. And the relationship she had with God was very special, unique to her. It wasn't like a lot of the Christian dogma that's pushed out. It was a special relationship she had with God. So she kind of instilled in me this perspective of religion that it was very unique. And Catholicism is a very creative religion. And I learned a lot from her through that. And it was very inspiring for me creatively. A lot of the imagery that I grew up with, a lot of the saints, a lot of the statues and crosses and stuff all around the house was creepy but comforting. And I think that that's just something that's been burned deep into me. She's my number one.
Ecco, passiamo invece a un altro argomento ancora. Dato che nei tuoi primissimi anni hai iniziato a lavorare ai fumetti, producevi e realizzavi fumetti per poi passare totalmente ai videogiochi, e anche se con il tuo stile, le tue pubblicazioni, che tra l'altro si affiancavano ai titoli da te sviluppati, non l'hai mai abbandonato davvero il fumetto. Ti ricordi però il momento in cui hai deciso di cambiare, di switchare, l'epifania che ti ha fatto dire ok, i videogiochi saranno la mia vita, il mio futuro?
So I made a game called Gish. I think it came out in 2004. We demoed it at GDC, which is the Game Developers Conference, in this festival called the IGF, the Independent Games Festival. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen someone play my game. And watching people play my game was the craziest thing. I was on such a high for a very long time. It just carried me like a tidal wave. And I felt like my voice could be heard more in this art form than animation or comics. I felt more fit to this than just straight up illustration and writing. It was more complicated. It was more rewarding. And there weren't as many people doing it. It was a very small group of people. And that was the moment when I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. My whole focus is going to be on video games and seeing where this can go, because it felt like such an untapped art form. It felt like people have just been kind of playing it safe. It was still in its early stages. And there's the potential there to do something really avant-garde and really interesting. That's what really got me into it.
E io procederei proprio su questa strada perché nel 1995 nasce Newgrounds, che è il sito fondato da Tom Fulp, che per decenni è stato un portale per un'infinità di contenuti in Flash, compresi i videogiochi. Tu che hai fatto di Flash appunto la tua bandiera, che cosa ha rappresentato Newgrounds per te e la storia dei videogiochi?
So 1999 is when I discovered Flash, and it was used primarily as a web tool, and that's how I learned it. I took a random course at a community college. I think I passed that course, but I failed most of my other courses. But I learned a lot, and I really liked Flash, and I liked it as an animation tool. You could do some pretty cool and quick animations. So I used that to make a website and also start turning my comics into interactive animations. In doing so, I found Newgrounds. And this is when the internet was the Wild West, and you could do and say whatever you wanted to do. There was no rules. And for the most part, no one's going to judge you outside of just, calling you names, and you ignore them. So I started uploading my stuff to Newgrounds like right away. And I started making minor interactive things in Flash. My claim to fame back then was Dead Baby Dress Up, which was surprisingly popular, and technically my first game. I even gotten a bunch of magazines overseas. It had legs on it. And Tom Fulp actually promoted me as one of the artists to watch, and it stayed up for way longer than the month that it was supposed to be, and it helped me make a name for myself. And as far as Flash goes, as far as using Flash all the time, it has a look to it, and the look to it always complemented my previous style in comics, thick lines, and I really liked the way it looked. And I was just so comfortable in the program that I still to this day use it as an art tool. There is some action script being used, even in Eugenics. Like me and Tyler use Flash for all the art, almost all the art. And it's cool because it's vectors, so it's really like not heavy on systems, and you can scale infinitely, and it looks pretty, and I don't know. I think I just got comfortable with the tool. There's the nostalgia factor, and then the fact that I'm just resistant to moving into other things. And yeah, that's kind of why my stuff looks the way it does for the most part.
Ecco, si è parlato di Newgrounds, molti di questi giochi pubblicati originariamente su Newgrounds sono contenuti in una collection che si chiama appunto The Basement Collection, e sono tutti giochi che sono stati sviluppati dal 2001 al 2009. Ecco, tra questa miriade di titoli ti senti di consigliarne uno che magari il grande pubblico abituato più che altro ai tuoi grandi successi non conosce?
I don't think I could choose one. I think my games got better closer to Meat Boy, basically. And the last few that I released, which are, I think in order, Spewer, Ether, and Timefuck were my best ones in the bunch. And I think Timefuck was maybe the best, but Ether is special in a whole different way. Those two are the tops for me in there. But they're all, unique and maybe worthy of something. But Timefuck is the one. Timefuck and Ether are the ones that I would possibly like to go back into and do something more with in the future. I'm also sorry I talk so much. I feel very
No, sei perfetto. You are perfect, Edmund. Ecco, invece nel 2003 pubblichi SnackOlantern, che invece consideri il tuo gioco peggiore. Io voglio sapere perché lo consideri il tuo gioco peggiore.
SnackOlantern was something that Calder, the guy that I was working with at the time, was like, hey, let's make a seasonal game for the views. Let's do something quick. It was bad. There was no game design to it at all. It was bad. I got to draw cute things. That was nice, but I've done a lot of shit games that you guys don't even know about. Like I've done work for other companies, and I make some garbage games, and I got paid for it. This was kind of one of those garbage games that I didn't get paid for, and that's why I don't talk about it, and I don't care to. put it up there with anything else I did. Number one, because I didn't design it. It wasn't my design, and it wasn't a design. It was nothing. Usually I'm not big on the games that I didn't design.
Ecco, invece io prima ho citato un gioco Gish, che invece è un gioco veramente molto molto ben riuscito, che è un gioco basato su una palla di catrame. L'ha spiegato anche un po' lui, io approfondisco, che sfruttando la sua fisica si mette a cercare la sua padroncina rapita nelle tubature di una fogna, vince dei premi anche in denaro e grazie a questo gioco la tua attività inizia a farsi conoscere. Ecco, che ricordi hai di questo gioco e che fino ha fatto il sequel, perché poi è stato abortito?
Man, I have some pretty fond memories from the release of Gish. I mean, it was back then there wasn't Steam, there wasn't Xbox Live. You put your game up on your website and you sold it there. You're like, please trust me with your credit card information, you know, and you get a few sales here and there. One of my fondest memories was we got actually mentioned on Penny Arcade, the website, and we got 98 sales that day. It was like a record-breaking 98 sales, and the whole office was going crazy about it. Gish was me, Alex, and this guy named Josiah. And Josiah mostly did business stuff and some program. But it was basically me and Alex that were making the game. And he wanted to do more work too, so he asked to do some game design. And I'm really controlling when it comes to game design stuff, especially level design. And I remember he spent like a really long time on this level that was the most biggest, giantest level in the world. And I like chopped it down into this teeny tiny thing, and then just said, okay, you know, we'll just continue doing this, and I'll just do all of the levels. And I felt bad about it. But, you know, it was a learning experience. And when it came to the sequel, we worked on Gish, I mean, on and off for about a year, maybe. It was a very ambitious game. We were trying to figure out new and interesting physics to be used in it, and I think we kind of bit off more than we could chew. And it was around the time where I was also there were options when it came to like we could do it on Xbox Live, put it on Steam and that sort of stuff. So there was a lot of pressure, and we had these possible deals, and I think the pressure of it kind of messed with Alex. And that was kind of where we parted ways for a little while. Me and Alex are on great terms now, but I think the development of Gish 2 and the pressure of making a console game was too much for us at the time. And I ended up taking that console deal basically and spinning it into Meat Boy. And that's basically how the Meat Boy thing is. It was first we were going to do Gish 2 on Xbox Live, and then it was, oh, well, maybe we'll remake Gish 1 on Xbox Live, and then that wasn't going to happen. So I'm like, oh, shit, I got to do something. So how about Meat Boy? And then they said yes. So that's what happened with Gish 2. Okay. I mean, who knows what will happen in the future? There's a possibility that I might work with Alex again and maybe make some sort of Gish sequel in the future, but not as ambitious as the idea that we had initially.
Ecco, l'abbiamo citato, nel 2010 esce Super Meat Boy, che tra l'altro è stato realizzato con Tommy Refenes. Non esce solo su PC ma su tutte le console. Tra l'altro per Edmund, se non erro, dovrebbe essere stata la prima volta, e ci butti dentro tutto, non solo te stesso ma anche le tue vecchie produzioni, ma anche citazioni al mondo videoludico tutto, quindi c'è Super Mario RPG, Ghost and Goblins, Contra, Mega Man, Metroid, Rocket Knight Adventures, che non conosce praticamente nessuno, e moltissime altre. Ecco, dato che dentro c'è di tutto, ti voglio chiedere che tipo di giocatore sei, cioè sei un videogiocatore che ama la narrativa, il puro gameplay, il genere, lo studio, magari segui delle figure chiave, insomma, qual è il gioco tipo di Edmund McMillen?
Gameplay number one, game design number one. I don't care what it looks like. Theme, secondary. Theme is nice. I like when people explore a game's themes with game design as well as just visual. I'm not a fan of stories in games. I'm not a fan of traditional storytelling in games. Those games bore me. Like, I want to be in control of the story. I would much prefer to be in a world that I'm experiencing than being told a traditional story. It's just better for me, and I think it's better for games. It's more complementary for games when you get something like, you know, anything that I've made, or, you know, any of the Dark Souls games where you're just living in a world and it's kind of telling itself. The significance of a story doesn't matter as much as the vibe the world, the tone, and that's the kind of stuff that I like. I gravitate towards replayable games. I play everything, even if it's a narrative-driven game. If everybody seems to like it, I'll give it a go. But yeah, I'm all over the place. I play a lot of board games. I've been obsessively playing a lot of board games these days, more than I've been playing video games. And I play Magic the Gathering, and I've played that for forever, since I was young. And I play it quite often. And I do gravitate some towards, like Slay the Spire type games, drafting games, roguelikes, games with replayability, arcadey type games where you're competing for score, multiplayer games where you're competing head-to-head with other people. Those are the kind of games like Overwatch and stuff. Those are the games I like. But I'll give anything a go. I just replayed Resident Evil 4, which is very, very good. And that is kind of a story-driven game. The story doesn't matter to me, but I really like what I'm doing in the game. It feels like a survival horror game. And if I could have my way, the initial village part where, you're just trying to survive, that'd be the whole game. This panic flow where you're just constantly running and surviving hordes of zombies, I think is really, really special.
Ecco, sempre rimanendo su Super Meat Boy, te hai dichiarato che è un tributo d'amore a Shigeru Miyamoto. Su di te e su Miyamoto sono state dette un sacco di cose, ma al netto delle sue creazioni, di tutto quello che ha inventato, secondo te perché Miyamoto è riuscito a essere immortale in un mondo dove tantissimi altri suoi colleghi, anche al tempo del Famicom, hanno fallito?
Miyamoto was doing things that an artist would do and not necessarily a programmer. And I think he was approaching things from an artistic standpoint, not illustration-wise, but as an artist. He's pulling from his own personal life. He's taking real-life things and abstracting them and trying to recapture real-life experiences and feelings in a video game. I mean, he's also very skilled when it comes to game design, but the fact that he was also he's an artist. He is driven by creativity and being creative and doesn't care much about the other things. And that's you could see that in everything that he's done. He just stood out like a sore thumb. There was no other game designers that were really like that much at that time. And he was very consistent in what he was doing. Yeah, it was just a very inspiring artist. And I got to meet him once and thank him, but I don't think he understood what I was saying. He smiled and he nodded. Yeah, that was cool. That was very, very cool.
Ecco Edmund, io l'ho letta la biografia di Miyamoto, però si può ammettere tranquillamente che, a parte rare eccezioni, forse qualcosa in Pikmin, non è che abbia mai puntato troppo sulla difficoltà, mentre tu, soprattutto con certi livelli di Super Meat Boy e certi personaggi di The Binding of Isaac, sei un po' sadico con i tuoi videogiocatori. Ecco, perché? Perché ti piace essere così sadico con noi? Why the lost, Edmund?
I don't like to see anybody suffer, but I believe in you. That's the difference. I believe you can do it, and I believe that the reward for doing it is going to feel all that much better when you do it, because it was challenging. We go in and out of this theme of video games allowing you to change the difficulty and kind of like pandering or even talking down to the player and being like, I don't think you can do this, so I'm going to hold your hand through the experience. And that's just something, as an artist, it just seems wrong. It seems wrong to do that. Like, I would much rather design a game that gets harder as you get more experienced. And that's what I did with The Binding of Isaac, and that's what I continue to do. Like, I feel like a failure if you don't continue and you don't do it, to a point. So I try to design games that start off easier and get harder the more you play them, because you have more experience. So the challenge is always there. So you always feel good, legitimately, for doing something that is difficult. I just think the other way is incorrect. And, and maybe it works for some games for sure, but for me, I don't want people to ever feel like there's just like an empty challenge there to it. Also, I'm sorry, but I got to leave in 3 minutes, so I got time for like one more question, but I can come back anytime you want me to.
Faccio quest'ultima domanda, vado rapido anch'io, dato che abbiamo citato The Binding of Isaac. Ecco, si è detto di tutto anche su questo gioco, un po' come Super Meat Boy, dove hai cambiato completamente genere, hai optato per un dungeon crawler roguelike con citazioni al mondo pop, a tutto il mondo pop, e poi ovviamente il dungeon assomigliava chiaramente a The Legend of Zelda, e ovviamente ti sei raccontato attraverso simbologie, metafore, la tua infanzia, insomma è un gioco che parla di te in un certo senso. pezzo. Anche su Twitch ancora oggi va fortissimo. Ecco, c'è oggi nel 2023 qualcosa su The Binding of Isaac che non hai mai raccontato e di cui vai particolarmente fiero?
I mean the fact that people have been playing this game for 10 years and it's still somehow relevant is insane. And the fact that people are just now picking it back up, and people will message me and be like, oh, this big streamer's playing Isaac for the first time, and like that's all he's doing. And it's like, it's been forever. Like, it's been out forever and people are still discovering it. I think I'm proud of its legacy. I'm very, very proud of its legacy. I'm proud that a game, like, look at this, like, look at what it is. There's no reason for it to be here, you know, like, it is so against the grain. It is so not like anything else. And the fact that it's still relevant, still around, is a huge achievement, and it makes me feel really good. And when people even ask me to this day, don't you get sick about people asking you questions about the Binding of Isaac? And it's, no, not really, because it just, every single time somebody asks me that, all they're saying is, I love your game. Like, it's not going to make me upset. People will always know me from this point on for Isaac. And that's fine, because it's one of my biggest achievements in a lot of different ways. The fact that it's still relevant right now makes me feel like, you know, maybe in 10 years it will be considered a classic game. And that would be a huge, huge deal for me. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Every time a new roguelike comes out, they're like, it's going to crush the Binding of Isaac. But one day it'll be dethroned. And maybe I'll be the one that dethrones it. That's my motivation for the future. I should probably just say bye now, though. So thank you guys so much for having me. And really, like, I hate to skip out so early. I can come on again.
Ok.
You want to talk more?
Ok Edmund, intanto ti ringrazio perché te sei uno famoso per rispondere alla tua community sul tuo Reddit, ma poi sei uno che in generale risponde. Però prima di lasciarti, Edmund, ti devo chiedere per forza quest'ultima cosa. Sei passato dal platform al roguelike, al deck building, al puzzle game, poi con The Legend of Boombo, poi l'action adventure con The End is Night e molto altro. Mi spieghi come mai non riesci mai a stare fermo?
Well, it's an easy question. I can't stop because I'll die.
Okay.
I have a hard time staying happy, and being creative and making art is what makes me very happy and makes me feel relevant. So I can't not. It's required for me to continue to survive.
Perfetto.
That's why I can keep
going. Grazie Edmund, e scusa se non ti ho chiesto almeno come stavi all'inizio dell'intervista, da quanto ero emozionato. Comunque grazie del tuo tempo.
No problem.